Esports law here. There's been a lot of discussion, obviously, on the sub over the last few days about this supposed Reddit team, and a lot has been thrown around about my involvement, and I feel like it'd be worthwhile for me to do a short video just kind of clarifying, first, my involvement in this project to date, second, what I think the project actually is, and then last, just kind of a message regarding how I think the discourse has happened around this, and I think lessons for the future. So I think all of you are familiar with what is happening here. I'll give a basic background for some people who are out of the loop. There have been so many threads about this lately. I think there's a lot of misinformation about what did and did not happen here. So first and foremost, this started as a joke, right? A person made a post about creating a Reddit team, and it was all under the theory of, everyone on Reddit is challengers. We know we make better decisions than actual LCS managers, so we might as well own a team. And on that thread, I made a joke comment being like, this is amazing. When it happens, I'll do all the legal work for free, right? The whole thing was sarcasm. But as it evolved, people started to take it seriously, and people started to say, wait, actually, I would fund this, or I would do XYZ work, do web development, create content, videos, whatever, to support this project. I think it would be really cool if the community owned a team. And from that, the original poster of the joke thread started to say, hey, why not me? Why shouldn't I take the lead on getting this project off the ground? And I want to be really clear about this. From my conversations with them, and they were very brief, I'll talk about that in a second, it was all about, helping get this off the ground, helping do a lot of the legwork and spend a lot of the hours associated with creating, for example, a crowdfunding campaign. And while a lot of people thought this was a really interesting idea and there was a lot of general support behind it, at least at first, there were not a lot of people stepping up to do it. Now, a lot of people did get in contact with me, and from speaking with the original poster, I know a lot of people got in contact with him as well and offered to help. And, from my understanding, he was fairly well inundated with messages, right? I mean, you go from someone who's working a separate job, not involved in the esports community, and you're getting hundreds of messages from people offering to help. I know from personal experience, it is very easy to lose track of some of them. So if he didn't respond to you for whatever reason, I'm still inclined to give this guy the benefit of the doubt in the standpoint he wasn't just ignoring people because he didn't want to listen to their feedback. He was inundated with messages and he was trying to get in touch with people as best he could. Now, this is not the purpose of this vlog is not to defend this guy and say, hey, I'd like to, support this guy in launching a team. Far from it. So let's briefly talk about my involvement in the situation. I've had now to date 2 conversations with this person. The total amount of time that we've talked has been less than 30 minutes. I had the conversation with him that I've had with a number of people who have gotten in contact with me seeking to do some kind of esports related project, right? So, a person will be wanting to form a challenger team and they won't have experience in the industry, or they won't know the best way to go about putting together contracts or at a budget or whatever. And they'll reach out to me because I'm a fairly public figure who does a lot of the work in this area, and I'll offer to help them out. That's the exact conversation I had. So this guy was saying, hey, hypothetically, if we were going to do this, what would it look like? Well, how could it be structured? How, what would a realistic budget be? How do I make sure, as someone who's never founded an esports organization before, that my budgeting is actually covering everything I needed to cover? So we had a short conversation about that, and I offered some thoughts, and I said, hey, I'm really not going to get involved in this project in any significant way, at least not right now. If you want to go forth, by all means, if you can garner community support, that's great. But, I'm not going to be a manager of this project because, 1, I don't think I'm the right person to do that, and 2, I just frankly don't have the time, right? And that's why everyone who messaged me about this, I referred to OP, because I knew he was doing it, and I figured let's just get everyone who's interested in this project together, and they can run with it, and I'll be in the background and help out how I can. So, a couple of the ideas that I offered, and I want to briefly go into this because I think hypothetically this could work, right? I mean, the sentiment on the subreddit has gone from joke to really excited about this to flame the original poster like crazy and say this is a complete scam and a farce and yada 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 as only Reddit could in the span of 24 hours. Hypothetically, this could work, and some of the things I've talked about, and I've had some follow-up conversations with some other people who have reached out to me about what my involvement has been or what this would look like. You could envision a world in which a board was created, maybe a board of 7 people, and you crowdfunded it, and you gave board positions to the top 2 donators just in recognition for their significant contribution, and then maybe you reserve 4 out of the remaining 6 or 4 out of the remaining 5 board seats for the top 15 other donators, and they would all submit resumes and applications, and basically the community could vote, right? So of the next 15, everybody submits their qualifications. Maybe people do video statements of why they think they'd be a good board member and why they think they should be actively involved in this project. And the community, who this team would theoretically represent, would get to select the people who manage, not just the money, but the team itself, right, and make those types of decisions. And I think this would be really important. The last board seat you would have to get someone with an independent community, reputation. You would have to get either an ex-pro or manager or owner or whoever, someone actively involved in the project that has, one, a lot of pre-existing esports experience, and two, has a reputation that really the community could get behind and feel comfortable this wasn't a scam. Preferably, that person could be involved in, the actual taking of the money. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today about, the part of the flaws in crowdfunding, and that these websites specifically disclaim any liability for donating money to something that never gets off the ground. They're just the platform. They're not responsible in any legal liability sense for if you get scammed, right? So having someone with that type of legitimacy would be really good, just for everyone to feel more comfortable, to make sure that that person, has direct authority. So you could see how like a board of this could come together, and there's a lot of other ideas I have about this. Like, for example, I don't think if this project ever got off the ground that it would be generating revenue. I think people who donate money to this would have to understand it is just that. It's a donation. This isn't an ROI situation, right? You're not getting a return on your investment. And if this team were to take off and be wildly successful and generate a bunch of revenue from sponsorships, prizes, whatever, it could go back to the community. This could be found in some kind of charitable organization, or any profits could be specifically redirected into charitable efforts. You could see, a fund being created to support players who were in unfortunate situations, or to create, advocacy groups, or to, educate, or maybe to hire a sports psychologist to, go and support teams to promote mental health in the scene. I mean, there's so many scenarios where you could see this money benefiting the community, right? So hypothetically, it's possible, and hypothetically, this could do some good for the community. I'm not going to run it. I am simply spitballing here, right? I am throwing out ideas just like, plenty of people did on the various threads when I feel like the discussion was really positive. Now, the last thing I want to cover on this is the community reaction. I think in a lot of cases, Reddit can be a positive factor, and I think I've been pretty disappointed with how this particular situation has been handled. It's not that I don't think people have a right to be skeptical about this project or OP in particular, right? I think skepticism, by and large, is good. You should not give money to people on the internet without it being very, very well vetted. I think that's all fine, and I think that's all well-intentioned, and I share much of that skepticism, right? Like I made posts clarifying, and part of the reason for this vlog, right, is I don't want people, hypothetically, if this ever did get off the ground, thinking esports law vouched for it, right? I'm not involved in the project, and I don't want you or donating money or contributing time or energy into this project thinking that, my reputation is behind it, because it isn't. That being said, from having some brief follow-up with conversations with OP, he's getting death threats, right? I mean, he's getting his name dragged through the mud. He's getting a whole bunch of people attacking him on the internet. And you have to ask yourself, like, what has he really done, right? I mean, I'm a big believer in giving people the benefit of the doubt. In this particular situation, what he has done is turned what was a joke that people seem to be behind into, he hasn't even turned it into a potential reality. He has started down that path, right? He has started doing some of the legwork. He's talked to people about budgeting. He's starting to do the research to put together the budget. He's theorized about team names, and he's conducted some polls on, what we think the team name should be, and then he's putting his own time and energy into creating a logo for that. He hasn't really done anything. He hasn't asked anyone for money, right? He hasn't proposed a system in which he is going to receive some massive salary. Now, I've heard that he might have made a comment either on a thread or to someone about collecting a salary. I don't think that's the right way to go on this, and I've communicated that to him privately, right? But what he has consistently said is, give me time to actually organize thoughts and put this together, and I will propose it. And then we judge it on the merits, right? And that's what I intend to do, right? In the event that he actually continues through with this project, or that anyone does, I'm going to wait to see what the proposal looks like. And then I'm going to judge that proposal and decide whether or not I think it is legitimate or illegitimate, whether or not I think, it is going to be a net benefit for the community or a net negative for the community. And everyone has to make that choice. But what I don't like about this is that we've got an individual who was putting forth a lot of time and energy. Whether or not we think this person was qualified to actually run an esports organization is irrelevant to this conversation. You've got an individual putting forth time for a project that hypothetically is designed to benefit the community, and our reaction over the last 24 hours has been to attack this person at every opportunity. And I'm using the royal hour, right? I mean, obviously not everyone has felt this way, but you have seen, and I'm sure as I have, the shift in sentiment, and I think it's really problematic. And I think, there were a lot of people enthusiastic about this idea, and it's probably going to die, and I don't have any vested interest in that, right? I don't care. Like, I think it'd be cool and interesting and fun potentially, but I don't have the time or the energy to actively manage this project. It is what it is. I'm just like all of you, another community member who think it might be fun for the concept of a community-owned team. I just want to make sure we're really thinking through how we respond to these types of problems. Remember, it's another human being on the other end of this, right? And he didn't ask for it, and I can empathize with him a little bit on this because I never intended to be a public figure, and I get criticism all the time. I mean, it comes with the territory, right? And it sucks. And we're in a community of pro players who, almost every pro player who retires makes clear just how much the way the community reacts to problems weighs on them. And I have players and owners and people within the industry who I consider personal friends who I've talked about these situations, and it really is awful. I mean, you cannot know until you have been there. And I have had, 1% of what OP went through over the last 24 hours and what some of these players have gone through and the hate that's cast on them. It really is unfortunate. So I'm not sitting here saying don't criticize players. I'm not one of those people who thinks that everything we should do should be positive. I get it. I really do. I just think we all have to remember there's another human being on the other end of these posts, and to keep them civil and to keep the dialogue moving forward in a productive way. So be skeptical, don't be hateful. And thanks for watching this. Those are just kind of some scattered thoughts. I'm sorry it wasn't very well organized, but I'm happy to answer questions either in the comments of this video or if it winds up on Reddit. So, thanks a lot and have a good day, everybody. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video. Per usual, I'm happy to participate in follow-up discussion either on Twitter or on Reddit. My accounts should be listed at the bottom. So thanks again.